But if you don't feel it all, if you don't feel all the feels, right, on that day, it does not change your salvation. It does not change the work of Christ on the cross, right? No. He has conquered sin and death. He paid that price. He rose again. He's the firstborn of all creation. And so we will rise again too. We are no longer subject to death. We have everlasting life in him. Sit there and think about that a little. Hey everybody, it's Pat and Ronda. We're back with another Kirkmont Women's Ministry video, and it's Holy Week this week. So we're going to talk about Holy Week when maybe you have a little bit of an unholy schedule. That's not the official title, but that was a discussion we had when we were talking about this earlier because, you know, it's busy. It's spring. The kids' activities are starting back up. There's Easter. There's stuff to volunteer for, things to participate in. There's, if you have a garden, there's a lot of stuff going on in the garden. And so in the very time that we're supposed to slow down and focus on the redemptive work of Christ, we're kind of a little
all
bit
over
crazy.
Everywhere.
Yes. So we went down memory lane and we talked a little bit about Easter growing up. So give us your synopsis of Easter growing up. What was it like?
Well, a lot of you know that I was raised Catholic, and so some of the things I remember are, I remember being encouraged to spend 3 hours on Good Friday from noon to 3 o'clock as the time of silence to stop and meditate on what Christ was doing for us. And we did the Stations of the Cross, which is a way of thinking about what Jesus went through on Good Friday. But then came Easter Sunday, and I remember going to church, but I mostly remember going to church because of the clothes, because it was always a new dress and frilly white anklets.
Something itchy.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah, usually something itchy there.
Yes, a hat, definitely, because we had to wear hats to church. And gloves. We wore gloves.
Yes, those little white gloves.
Yeah, always white gloves. So, yeah, those are the things. Easter baskets, Easter candy, coloring eggs, all those things. We did all those things.
What's coming to mind right now as she's describing hats and gloves, I'm thinking of a picture that I have from when I was a kid, and we were at John and Pauline Perry's place, which was like 5 acres of Bermuda grass probably, and they had a couple of horses, and the church had an Easter egg hunt out there. I'm pretty sure I'm in cut-off jean shorts and some black cowboy boots and a tank top with my Easter basket. Yeah,
I would love to see a picture of that.
It wasn't quite hats and gloves. Now we did dress up for Sunday church, and we actually wore, the stuff that you're describing, the things that they sell in all the catalogs, for Easter, as opposed to in Ohio where you can do all that, but you probably better put your parka on over it because it's usually far too cold for the sleeveless spring floral dresses. So yeah, but I remember egg hunts and ham, cheesy potatoes, stuff like that. But I grew up very not Catholic, and I think the church I grew up in, like many Protestant churches perhaps, pushed so hard against Catholicism that I did not know what the term liturgical calendar meant. There was no Holy Week. That was what the Catholics did. And why do we have fish everywhere on Friday? What's this whole thing about? I didn't get it as a kid. So Holy Week for the uninitiated, if you grew up in the rural South like me, maybe the Bible Belt, the non-Catholic portion, how do we explain Holy Week?
Yeah. One of the things that I had to come to understand was a different view of Holy Week when I started coming to Kirkmont. And one of the things that I really fell in love with was the Maundy Thursday service. It's we haven't had it this last year, and we won't have it this year. I'm hoping for next year. But it's an opportunity for us to remember Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples. And Maundy comes from the Latin word mandare, which means to command. And in John 13, Jesus says to the disciples, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." So talk about hammering it home.
Showing off.
Yeah. Love one another. Just do
Are you
it.
paying attention?
Yeah. So, and we usually have communion, and because Jesus instituted communion that night with his disciples, and it is just, it's a lovely, quiet, reflective service usually.
Yeah.
And I very much like that.
I think my kids were usually like, "Oh, seriously, it's Holy Week. We have to go to church again." Like every night. So Holy Week goes Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday or Resurrection Sunday, right? So Palm Sunday, you may remember Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, right? And the palm branches being thrown down in front of him, and he's riding in on a donkey kind of thing. So that's like the announcement of the arrival of the king, right? So that institutes Holy Week. And then he celebrated Passover with the disciples, and we now, kind of make that a Maundy, Thursday thing. And then we have to talk about Good Friday.
Yes.
Because Good Friday, it doesn't sound very good. But this is, when Jesus was arrested, crucified, the passion of Christ. That's, again, probably a word that I didn't understand growing up. I'd be like, why would you call it the passion of Christ? I just thought that was weird. And then I guess we call it Holy Saturday, even though there's kind of a non-event.
It's a lull.
A lull. And then Resurrection Sunday. So that's kind of your speed version of Holy Week. And it really should be a time of reflection for us. Like she said on Maundy, Thursday, it's like this nice, calm, reflective day. And then you go to Good Friday. I don't know if you guys have been to a Good Friday service. We are having one Friday. BJ's preaching.
7 o'clock in the evening.
You had a couple of good stories, though, about the power going out.
And past Good Friday services here, some of the things I remember, there was one Good Friday where during the service there was a thunderstorm going on.
Because they're usually very solemn. I mean, because you're reflecting on Christ's crucifixion.
Right. And so all of a sudden there was this clap of thunder and bolt of lightning, and the power went out in the church. And the person, during that service, we had 7 people speaking, doing the 7 last words of Christ. And the person who was speaking at that point just carried on. She couldn't see her notes, but she just did it. It was amazing. Yeah. One of the other things we've done in the past is what's called stripping the sanctuary, where the decorations are taken down. And one year, my assignment...
I love this one.
We usually have a drape over the cross, and my assignment was to pull that drape down. And the cross is pretty high, so I had to reach up.
Yank on it.
What nobody else knew, but what I knew was the drape was Velcroed on. And so when I grabbed that thing and ripped it down, the noise was just, the whole congregation just kind of... and I folded it up and walked off with it. But it was, the effect of that noise was really something. And then there was one Good Friday where the pastor, when he was talking about Jesus being nailed to the cross, had somebody back behind the congregation who took a hammer and made this metallic pounding noise.
That.
And it was just...
Yeah.
It was heart-stopping.
Yeah.
Because it made you stop and think. This is
what it would have, it would have been like. Yeah. I think the liturgical calendar, or high church, maybe it was, it's very emphasized in the Catholic tradition, and it's probably been way too de-emphasized in the modern evangelical Protestant circles. Again, running so far from rite and ritual that we toss out all the good stuff. So yeah, maybe there's something in the middle where I know what Holy Week is. I know what Easter's actually about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's no magic in the ritual, in the tradition,
No.
right? These episodes, these days, it's not like you get some magic punch card and when you get to heaven you got to show that you went to this many Good Friday services and you get in. That's not how it works. They're not salvific. Um, and oftentimes I think Pat and I talked about the fact that for a mom trying to get everybody out the door on Sunday morning, Easter Sunday of all Sunday mornings, dressed and, coordinated, standing still long enough to take a picture to commemorate the event because you actually got everybody in matching clothes or whatever.
But of course, they're never all smiling.
And they're never all smiling, it's like the blooper reel. And then, there's all the yelling and fighting on the way to church, and you finally roll in the door here, and you go, man, it's crowded. Oh, we can't find a seat, and oh, shove in over so-and-so. And you sit down in the pew, and it's probably the second or third song by now, and you don't always feel maybe what you think you should feel.
Yeah, you don't feel connected
in
or
celebration
focused.
of Easter Sunday. I mean, this is a big deal. It's a big deal that Christ died, but it's a pretty darn big deal that he rose again, right?
It's the most important
Right.
Sunday we celebrate.
Right.
And Rhonda's absolutely right. It's been a long time since I had to try and get even one kid out the door, much less more than that. I can't even imagine. But by the time you sit down in the pew, you have no sense of, this is a time to celebrate. You have a sense of, oh, thank God,
You're trying to think of the punishment for whatever so-and-so did to their brother on the way in, like what's the appropriate thing. And I think even, again, I'm not in that phase either with the little ones, but perhaps growing up in church and being overly familiar with some of the high holy days, even if we didn't call them that, then sometimes I struggle and think, gosh, I don't feel enough about this, I struggle with the emotion, do I feel the awe? Do I feel the reverence? Sometimes I'm fine. Sometimes Dan will say something or there's just the perfect song and I'm just like crying in the pew and it's, la-di-da moment, right? But it's not always that way. And I think especially Easter and Christmas, or the big ones where we feel like, oh, I should be so thankful and I'm going to conjure up thankfulness. and it
doesn't come.
And it doesn't come.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to remind ourselves that, first of all, he gives us a whole week so that we don't have to conjure it all up in one day, I think. He does give us a whole week, and he gives us the whole season of Lent to reflect on it, really. There's value in some of that tradition because it kind of gets us in the right headspace to celebrate these days. But if you don't feel it all, if you don't feel all the feels, right, on that day, it does not change your salvation. It does not change the work of Christ on the cross, right? No. He has conquered sin and death. He paid that price. He rose again. He's the firstborn of all creation. And so we will rise again too. We are no longer subject to death. We have everlasting life in him. Sit there and think about that a little. And if you don't get excited till Monday when everybody, they don't go back to school. Tuesday when everybody goes back to school and the house is quiet and you can actually think about, wow, I saw family, I saw friends, I had fellowship, I worshiped together, we did all this stuff. Like, if you don't feel it till a few weeks later, that's okay.
Yeah.
Too.
One of the things I was thinking about is there are some realities that we need to recognize. Okay. One is we're going to be distracted. I mean, especially if you've got little guys that you're dealing with, you're going to be distracted because they're wiggling. And the hair bow that was perfect when you left the house is now hanging down here. And those cute little suspenders are now half-mast. and so it's hard to maintain your focus, but just keep pulling it back. Well, here I am. I think another thing is we're comparing.
Oh, yeah, big
you
time.
know, oh, so-and-so's kids are acting so nicely, and mine are wiggling all over everywhere and crawling under the pew, and
Yeah. Stop
just
it.
stop it.
Stop it.
Don't look around and go, well, man, she got a really cool dress for Easter, and I got spit up
I
on my
wear heels like that and not kill myself. Yeah.
So just stop that. And then the third thing is, remember, the enemy loves it when we're distracted and when we're comparing and we've lost focus. Tell him to just
knock it off.
Get out of the way.
Yeah.
James tells us, submit yourselves to God, resist the enemy, and he will flee from you. So tell him to get out. And then the last thing I was thinking about is how important tradition is. I look back and I can't necessarily remember, I certainly can't remember every Easter Sunday. And there are just highlight reels sort of that you think about. But, get the chocolate for the kids and let them, rub it everywhere. Hard-boil the eggs and color them. Take sermon notes. Sing the best you can. Have some traditional meal. And what happens is you begin to layer Easter upon Easter upon Easter and holiday upon holiday upon holiday. And in that, you're building memories for your kids, you're building memories for yourself, and that's how God's building his kingdom through us, is those memories that we have, that we're making for ourselves, that we're making for our kids. It becomes, it's a heritage for your children. So, yeah, it's a lot of work. And sometimes you think, why am I going through this? You're going through it because your kids will remember it, and you will remember it, and you will rejoice in it.
Yeah. Amen. Revel in Christ's work for you.
Absolutely.
And pray for that desire. Pray that the Spirit will birth more desire for God in you, because it'll get there. We just tend to be a hurry up, I want it now kind of thing, because we don't think we have that many Sundays, to build it up. But it's so much better the way he does it. And we have life for the age to come in him. All right. We'll see you next week.